Okay, we are live streaming. Good evening and welcome to the Salem Willamette Valley Airport Advisory Commission meeting. Today is March 18th and it is 6:01 p.m. This is a public meeting which is being recorded and live streamed. Commission members, for the purposes of the recording and minute taking, please raise your hand when you state your name for roll call. And again, if there are any matters you are voting on. Chair, to you.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call it to order and ask for a roll call, please. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
We hear you. Jody, can you just read down the list?
Sorry, that might be the problem. Sorry, I had myself muted. Apologies. Mr. Chair, Mike Morrow.
Present.
Vice Chair, Christopher Burkholder.
Present.
James Hutches.
Present.
Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Edgecombe.
Present.
Richard Field.
Present.
Benjamin Wigton. And Judith Kiss are absent this evening. Over to you.
Okay. And do we have any guests on the line or in the room?
Do I say my name?
Yes,
Yeah.
just introduce yourself.
Okay, yeah. My name is Nathan Shank. I am a pilot and hangar owner.
My name is Ben Ramus, and I'm a hangar owner.
Mark Bechtel, City of Salem Public Works.
And good evening, Rob Broyhill, Air Traffic Control Manager at Salem here.
Thank you. Yeah, apologies if I'm switching back and forth here, trying to do this while pulled over on the road. Can we get an approval of the agenda for this meeting today?
I move to approve the agenda. I'd second it.
Okay, can we do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Mike Morrow.
Aye.
Christopher Burkholder.
Hi.
James Hutches.
Aye.
Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Edgecombe.
Aye.
Richard Field.
Aye.
Motion approved.
And I guess I should have confirmed this at the beginning, but it sounds like we do have a quorum. Yes.
Correct.
Is that okay? Thank you.
Full members are needed for a quorum.
Okay, thank you. If we can go ahead, hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the minutes. If are there first, I guess, are there any amendments to the minutes?
Nope.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
So moved.
I second.
Can we go ahead and do a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Mike Morrow.
Aye.
Christopher Burkholder.
Aye.
James Hutches.
Aye.
Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Edgecombe.
Aye.
Richard Field.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. I believe we had one written comment. Is that true?
I'm only aware of one noise complaint that it would be a public comment, but that does fall under the noise complaints.
Oh, okay. We can cover it then, I guess. Any public comment from those in the room?
You want to share anything?
Yeah. I wanted to ask questions about the new hangar lease policy. Is this the right time for that, or? Yeah, absolutely. All right.
For the purposes of the record, one more time, could you state your name? I'm sorry.
My name is Nathan Shank.
Thank you, Nathan.
Yep. So I become aware of a new-ish hangar lease policy that has resulted in shorter terms. I'm wondering what the policy basis is, like what document or what's the origination of the of this newer policy.
Yeah, I guess is this a good time to cover that, or is it better in reports? I can respond to that. Or what is,
Ask your chair.
sure.
I
Would you like
think-
me to-
I think in the interest, since it raises public comment, let's go ahead and address it here, and then we can maybe do skip over that part in the report, or at least go at a high level in the report.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's a really good question. And I guess the reference to a lease policy. Currently, we only have one existing lease policy in place. That was, let's see here, effective May 22nd, 2013. And so that lease policy really set up the framework for us in how we initiate leases and how we initiate new builds, new hangar builds. But a huge part of that was also to establish the framework to standardize a lot of the existing leases. So the existing leases were kind of all over the place. They had a duration of a lot of different terms. And they had a lot of different, I guess, terms within the lease agreement as well. So this lease policy from 2013 set up a new standardized template and started getting everyone over to that new standardized template. We're now at the point being 10 years later, or I guess 13 years later, I should say, where a lot of those are starting to expire. So either the leases that were bumped up then, or the ones that chose not to go into that new lease template are now starting to expire. And we don't have a good policy for what happens next, right? What happens with a hangar that is 60 years old, that is coming due on an expiration of a lease? So we really need to build that policy. We need to come up with the next version of it, or the next iteration of it, and give us a good refresh. It's a good policy, but it is 13 years old. So with the leases that have expired or that are expiring, until we get a new policy in place, the decision was made that we would bump those out in 5 years. So we would offer a 5-year term on those leases, and that gives us enough time to develop a policy, get the policy before this body, and socialize it with our tenants and make sure that everyone is aligned with where we're going. The thought process was a 10-year lease for all these expirations would make it a little bit too far out for us to really do anything with that. It would put too much time on it. 5 years seemed like it was a sweet spot of where we could develop a policy and really put something in place and then renew those at that time. So we haven't established a new policy. I guess to circle back to your question, it's not a new policy. It's operating within the existing policy, but there is a need for a new policy. And that's really what we're building. It's a little bit of time to develop that. Did that answer your question?
I think so. Thank you. I have a few more questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
So Administrative Rule 110-001, I think is what you were talking about. There's a section in there about holdover tenants, which doesn't seem like it has a time limit associated with it. Can you speak to how the 5-year term squares with that and with the standard lease form, Article 2? Yeah.
So the holdover provision that you're talking about, and I can read from it here. It's unfortunate that it wasn't a little bit more clear, but it was built around the effort to get everyone to a new lease template, a new standardized template. So it says there currently exists a wide variety of different lease forms. This section applies to holdover tenants and leases with unexpired ground leases executed prior to the effective date of this policy. So it's really trying to get all those leases that are kind of held over in that state over to the new form. So it then says a little bit later, so here's the last date to request rescission shall be December 31st, 2013. So it's establishing that this offer that we're making to leaseholders has a sunset. And really the intent behind that was, we will offer new terms with a longer duration, for exchange of a little bit higher rental agreement or rate. Or you can keep your existing one with a little bit lower rate and not get the additional terms. And so, like I said, we're getting to that point now where those ones that chose not to do that are now coming expired. And so the intent isn't necessarily to not renew those or to not keep extending those, but we just have to build out that policy. What is the next step in that? What is the next phase? And that's the part that we haven't done yet. Does that make sense? Does that answer it, or?
Mostly. Let's see here.
So one of the questions that I would have on that, just from my standpoint, I'm a lease holder too.
Sure.
And I've got whoever I purchased mine from had updated the lease, so I've got till 2046 or something, but
Yeah.
by doing it for just 5 years, basically, you guys have limited or you've lost value for the hangar owner. Because if he's only got a 5-year lease, and if somebody else wants to buy it, they're gonna question, well, can I get a lease? Am I gonna be able to get a lease after 5 years? So it's lowered the value of his hangar as far as I'm concerned. And that would be my only question about that part of it. Sounds like maybe we should have got the leases done a little earlier from my thoughts, but
Yeah.
to where it was ready by the time they did come to this point.
I would agree with that. So
But
yeah, no, that is a really good point. And I think that it's worthwhile to point out in line with that there is no intent to not continue renewing those. I don't know how to phrase that better, but it isn't our intent to stop at the 5-year, right? It's our intent to use that 5-year to develop a policy that can then be extended out further.
so their 5-year lease, and that's just a question of mine, what do they get? I mean, do they get a lease based on what they already had for 5 more years, or do they get the newer one?
It would be the newer one.
Okay.
Yeah, it would move over to the new template. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And another challenge in this is that we have to apply it equally across the board.
Mhm.
There are some, like I said, older buildings and some newer buildings. I think yours is a really good example of that, where at some point the lease was only a 20-year term. So the building's 20 years old, which is young, right? That's compared to a 60-year-old building that has a lot of life left. Applying the 5-year term to everyone that was expiring was really in an effort to level the playing field. Everyone starts at the same point. And we weren't necessarily picking and choosing
Right.
or cherry picking.
I didn't figure that.
But you do bring up a good point, and I think that it is worth acknowledging that there is no intent to stop at the 5-year. That just gives us the time to build on the policy and then move on from
Is
there.
there a way to work that into the language? Can we talk to either our real estate folks or legal folks to put some kind of
Yeah, some
an
guardrails on it.
intent statement in there? Because I see what you're saying, how do you get financing, or how do you, so something that would acknowledge that this is kind of an interim situation with every intent to continue long-term leasing.
Yeah.
We can definitely explore that and see what options are.
That
Yeah,
would
I
be
think
one.
putting something about the intent in that 5-year lease. So that if somebody's buying it, then they recognize this is not like, oh, I have to get a whole new lease, that the intent is to continue the lease as all of the others are kind of coming up to date with the new policy.
We can definitely look into that.
So should he first go through legal at the city, and then maybe they would give advice on who to contact?
Yeah, I would suggest we engage our real estate section with our legal department and see if there's a way to enter some language like we've talked about that gives some assurance that this is it's a short-term lease, only so that we can make changes to the template, and then they can continue a long-term duration at the airport.
I believe there's a section in the city code that says that the city council is the only people who can set the lease form.
Yes.
Has the council been informed? And
No,
have they
but
voted?
it will come to us once all of that language is in place.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, and we use a standardized form for all the leases. And then it adjusts the term based on the policy. So. Yeah, and it changes to that would have to go through the council.
So what's in our part to
No,
terminate leases
no, not at all.
or to own any of these hangars?
Or don't. No, that's a good point.
Well, what's the status of the lease policy we're talking about? Is it a proposed lease policy that's being developed, or is it something that's already been implemented, or
No.
what are we talking about exactly?
So the new lease policy or the existing one?
Yes,
So
the 5-year lease policy that we're discussing.
yeah, so the 5-year lease isn't necessarily a policy, it still is fitting within the existing policy. The new policy, the version 2.0 of the current lease policy, really is at this point, we know we need it, but we haven't addressed it, or we haven't engaged in how to build that yet. We'll likely consult with a consultant who is well versed in this kind of thing to make sure that we're not doing something that would, be harmful to our tenants, or that would put us in a bad spot. So kind of looking at both sides of that. But yeah, it was more of we recognize that we don't have something in place, and so we need some time to put something in place.
So the existing one though, that's like the one that I have, is not good enough. There's something that's missing in there.
The lease template that you are under now?
Yeah,
No, that's fine.
I know, for me, but I mean, to use for other people. The one that was developed back in 13.
Well, that's the one that we're still using. It's just the duration of it that
Okay.
we've changed to 5. And that's not necessarily I guess a material change to the template. The template is still the same.
Yeah,
It's
I was just curious what they were trying to build, something that they needed, something different.
Yeah, so what we'd be looking at is the overall age of the buildings. So not necessarily, again, there's no appetite to not continue engaging in these renewals or upping these leases. But this puts a hard limit on a 50-year-old building, right? So
Gotcha.
once it exceeds that age, then what do we do? What's the policy after that?
Okay.
And so
Yeah, because I don't remember seeing anything written about that in mine, so.
And so some other airports, and not saying that this is our goal or objective, but some other airports have looked at the reversions as I know Eugene has talked about taking, I don't know if they actually have, Bend has a really good policy, or a really robust policy, I should say, about reversion deferral. So after a certain point, or after that lease expires and the hangar is supposed to revert back to the airport, they have a deferral policy where you can essentially buy years on that deferral. So you can re-up it for another 4 years or 20 years or whatever it is. And it would be an improved rate rather than a ground rate. So the ground is essentially a bare piece of land, right, that you build a hangar on, and then you amortize that over the life of the lease. So what Bend has done is said, okay, now that hangar is amortized, you can take the deferral and continue essentially paying a little bit higher rate for the improved ground rather than the bare ground. So that's one thing that we can look at, additional revenue for the airport. And I think it kind of captures the value of the hangars as well. But there are some other things that are worthwhile.
There's lots of options we can look at.
There are a lot.
I was just curious what they were after, or why they wanted to change. That's what I was looking for. So.
Hopefully, does that help?
Sort of. So I just renewed for the new 5 years. So if you come up with a new plan, say in 2 years, can I renegotiate my lease? If you come up with a new plan that extends it longer?
I would absolutely say that that's definitely something that we would want to bake in, that we would want to give some reassurance that way.
Okay.
I hesitate to make promises until we can get it written down and really, I guess, memorialized in a way. But I think that that's really the goal of this was to, like I said, buy us some time once we get that policy in place and we can implement those.
But the intent is to have long-term leases.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And this 5-year policy is just to have the time to be able to create the longer term policy that basically it's basically sort of an updated
Yes.
policy because 2013 is aged out in a way, so.
Yeah.
And this would be updating it, but not with the intention of trying to take the hangar, take the,
Right,
just a mechanism for us to have that time period to improve or update, I would use the word update policy and then and it sounds like there's other airports that have pretty good language. And that's what the legal department would look at. That's what real estate departments would look at to make sure that all of that fit.
Yeah.
Before it would even come to the council for review. And then all of the information that was contributed, we would learn about so that we could make an informed decision to approve it or say, send it back. We'd like to see some other improvements or some other changes. That's how I see it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I would even go as far to say that there are other airports, and not necessarily the ones that I named, that have done it wrong and have found the consequences of not doing it correctly or doing it in a way that is not beneficial to everyone involved. So there's a lot of examples of what we don't want to do. We want to make sure that we're calculated.
So that makes it pretty clear that a 5-year time period is what's needed because we need to review other policies to make sure what's working and not working.
Absolutely.
I have a question. Will this update flow through this commission?
Yes, absolutely. Before it goes to city council, it would be
Yeah.
would have the ability to be ready.
For those in the room and folks on the commission that have hangars, and of course anybody watching the recording, I would encourage you to monitor the agenda for this meeting and provide that comment as this rolls out and as this flows through the commission. And as we see more clarity around what the updates will be.
Yeah.
And then also to clarify, there would also be public hearing for it, at city council level. So, you would have public input here. And then then we would be advised based on what this commission would agree to. And then there'd be public hearing as well at the city council level.
Very good.
And we can add some intent to the 5-year lease to show intent that this is just enough time to allow a new policy. Our intent is to have long-term leases.
Yes, absolutely.
I just have one final question relating to the existing policy. Previously, you mentioned, I think you mentioned 110-001-130, paragraph 2, which has a time limit associated with it. Can you explain to me how that time limit applies to paragraph 1 for holdover tenants?
Yeah, so it goes back to the so the very first statement in the holdover tenants, there's a wide variety of existing leases that are different forms and terms and conditions. So this section applies to holdover tenants with unexpired leases prior to the effective date of this policy. So they were capturing everyone at that time, saying you have until December at the end of this, I guess, policy or and then this sunset date to make it a choice.
Yeah, I think you just described paragraph 2 again. Paragraph 1 is for holdover tenants, which is defined as a tenant with an expired lease, not an unexpired lease.
Can you say what section this is again?
Yeah, this is 110-001, 130, paragraph 1 and 2. And holdover tenant is defined in the definitions under O.
Yeah, so that would be if their lease was expired at the time of this policy, right? But also it goes in and defines the age of the hangar. I guess I'm not entirely sure what the question
I,
is.
I'm not seeing the language in here that applies that time limit to holdover tenants. I see how it applies to lessees with unexpired leases.
Okay, so a holdover tenant then would be someone with an expired lease. So that would be where we're at, is an expired lease. So issuing a new lease would then not make you a holdover tenant anymore. It would be a whole new lease. So we could leave people in holdover status, but I would say that's probably a worse situation to be in.
Sorry, should. The holdover tenant, the paragraph 1 defines how the leases are issued to put them under lease. And it contemplates a calculation and a minimum term.
Yeah, but again, I believe this is really geared toward that time period where we're trying to give incentive for those holdover tenants to not be holdover anymore, to sign new leases. So in this case, we would essentially be giving the best of both worlds. You had a decreased rate for the number of years until the ring, or not renewal, but the new lease. And then the expectation is that you also get the additional thing. So I wish it was a little bit more clear, but that's how we interpret it, and that's how our legal team interpreted it. And so we're just following the framework of the policy as it applies in the earlier sections of that, where it gives us the authority to set the term.
And to reiterate, we'll have opportunity for more public comment from both during this commission as well as, it sounds like, city council.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that is absolutely our intent, that it is a well thought out and calculated process, that we aren't rushing to any policy changes.
So I'd like, in the interest of time, if see if there's additional public comment from online or in the room. Okay. I think our next agenda item is tower report.
Hello, everyone. Rob Broyle from the tower. Looks like January's traffic count was 3,301. That's about 167 down from January 2025. We moved into February with a count of 2,874. That was a plus of 566 from the previous February. We didn't have any alerts in the last couple of months. We didn't have to roll the fire department, so it was good. A couple environmental issues. We had a aircraft land 3-4 and experienced a flat tire before exiting the runway. We went ahead and had them tugged off. Additionally, a pilot landed. He lost steering control, and we went ahead and just left him in place and called airport operations, and we had them towed off as well. One laser light illumination. We had H60 approaching from the east. Got a flash from northeast of Lancaster area. The pilot was wearing goggles, so he was unable to get a color from the flash. We went ahead and notified Willamette Valley Communication Center who see if they had somebody out in the area, and we didn't hear back from that one. A few things coming up: construction, taxiway Alpha Rehab, Alpha 1, Alpha 2 be going to bid fairly soon. We'll have some access issues from north hangars, but we'll work through that. I think we're looking for construction around fall, spring of 2027. Had a few gremlins on runway 1634 lighting. Airport operations are working through that. So basically they're coming on, but we're having to toggle through the switch to actually get them to come on and off. So we're hoping it's not challenging to the air-to-air at night. I've only had one report of it. But it seems in the last couple of days, it's been pretty effective, but we're watching that pretty closely. Our annual FAA Runway Safety Action Team meeting will be coming up here soon. Invites went out March 16th. If you weren't on that list, I know between Aaron and I, we had about 300 invitations that went out. If you weren't on that list and want to be on that list, just let us know. We'll get the information out to you. That'll be a virtual meeting as well. Little tower equipment, we're getting a new enhanced terminal voice switch, which is basically the brains of our communication center and our boards. And that basically enables air-to-ground communications. It basically simultaneously monitors multiple frequencies, our radio frequency, telephone lines, our direct shout lines to Seattle Center. So right now we have an SDVS, which is probably the late 1960s version. So this will be electronic heads-up display. So touch screen type equipment. So it's going to be a nice upgrade for us. And then as far as facility training, we got one air traffic control specialist in training. And any questions for me tonight?
I've actually got a question about something you mentioned. You described an incident safety issue with a laser on a helicopter pilot, and then you reached out interagency for assistance and did not hear back. Is that the normal protocol? Would we have expected to have some collaboration?
Normally our procedure would be call law enforcement, see if there's somebody in the area maybe could, if we get a lat long or something a little similar, maybe we can get closer. But in this case, it was 2 miles south of Lancaster. If we had a cruiser in the area, maybe they could see some mischief going on. Right now, when we call, the law enforcement non-emergency, it goes recording half the time. So we have the dispatch Willamette Valley Communications Center, and then they have, control to dispatch somebody else, have maybe further information if they have somebody in the area. So it's basically just a procedure that if there is somebody in the area, law enforcement wise, and they can do something about it, they can at least investigate it on the ground at the time. Most of these laser illumination lights, if they go on for any period of time, it's no more than 15 minutes. So they're very difficult to track down.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is this something that is potentially significantly hazardous? And if so, I would suggest that you speak with the police department and learn if that should go to the 911 call center so that they would be able to see if a patrol unit would be available instead of going to a recording. Because once the recording's done, no one's going to get it in time.
Well, in our case here locally, it goes to the recording majority of the time. So that's why we're using the dispatch center. Yeah, I mean, if the law enforcement wants to be bothered by that with a 911, that is a question. I know for air traffic control protocol, we tend to use non-emergency numbers for that. But if that's something that the local police department wouldn't mind us doing, we definitely could put that in our standard operation procedures.
In my opinion, I think it's worth an ask. I think that whether you go through our city manager or through Chief Womack, just find out with an explanation of the purpose of the call and determine if that's something that should be going to the call of Willamette Valley Call Center versus police collection, voicemail collection.
Yeah, so Willamette Valley Communication Center is our emergency hotline.
Okay.
So if we have any accidents out here or any mishaps, it's a direct radio line. So it is like a push to talk.
Okay. But
So
if you're
it's
trying to
actually-
find a patrol unit to go for a laser, I'm basically asking, have you inquired if that would bring the level of the call to the call center?
Yeah, and once again, for air traffic purposes, that is our protocol. That is what we do.
Okay,
That's what
all right,
everyone
I'm not
does.
trying to challenge that.
Yeah,
I've
I've been lasered about a dozen times in the Willamette
Yeah.
Valley over the years, and it's our protocol. It can be dangerous, it can hit you right in the eye.
Yes,
But all of our pilots, and I can't speak for the civilian folks, but we're to turn away from it. So we turn. So it's coming from this side. We go this way, and then we tap our lat long that will lock in the code, and then we send it in.
Okay,
I would not say it's dangerous enough to take a first responder off
There
the
you go.
street to.
okay,
to
that's
address
what I
that,
was trying
yeah.
to find out, so thank you.
But the importance of reporting it is for tracking purposes, because we have caught somebody that was out by Malala that was continuously doing it. And we sent enough helicopters and we got the house, and it was a kid in his backyard with his thing, and the FBI showed up to his house and talked to his family, and we've never had a problem from that house again.
From that house, yeah, okay,
So that's how-
we understand it, so thank you for
Yeah.
that explanation. And that then you're tracking it so that if it becomes something that's ongoing, that then maybe we can send somebody out. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's part of the occurrence reporting. It does go through the National Airspace System and it is tracked. So, and the FAA does, find it, very nefarious for pilots. And there is a campaign to try to limit that. But with all these inexpensive lasers out there, it's a very hard thing to actually get a control on.
It's the drones that are really the more problem than the
Sure.
lasers.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you. I think it sounds like you have the protocol laid out. I just was concerned that we needed to. pick it up.
I can add a little to that, they have a meeting over at the flight deck every once a month, Tuesday, and that was a Salem police officer that came to that meeting and told us to call the tower and try to give them as close a location as we could to where
Good,
where we saw the light, and the tower would know how to get hold of somebody the quickest that anybody could.
okay, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for the tower report? Okay, how about the airport manager's report, please?
Yeah, we can just quickly touch on some of the stuff. Our landing fee system is in place, has been since September, landing and parking fees. We have the totals there on the table. So so far we've invoiced about $39,000 worth of fees. So that's a nice increase over pretty much zero compared to before. So we are hearing some feedback on that. I briefed the group last time on some of the feedback we're hearing. Since then, I talked to the FAA about potential exemptions for restricted category aircraft or for experimental aircraft. The FAA's recommendation, and this was a recommendation that obviously they weren't giving legal advice, but it was that if we can't tie a user fee to those aircraft, then they should not be exempt. So where a based aircraft is based, they're paying a hangar fee or a land fee, and a transient aircraft is paying a landing fee or a parking fee. Those are user fees that are fair, and so exempting somebody from all of the fees would not be fair based on the category of aircraft. So that was their take on it, that we could be challenged on something like that. So we're not going to explore that anymore. I think that was a fair ask. They said that they would recommend, finding a way for these people that want the exemption to pay a fee, whether that's through some type of a lease agreement or something like that. So no recommended changes to any of our parking or landing fees. We do have, just want to touch quickly on air service. We do have a conference coming up in April. It'll be in California, where we will have a chance to sit down face to face with airlines, with route planners at airlines, and discuss the benefits of coming to Salem. We have right now on our schedule, I think there was 7 or 8 airlines that we have some face to face meetings with. 3 of those are really positive. I think that we have a really good story to tell, and it seems like they line up pretty well with what we're trying to achieve. Other than that, don't have anything else to report on airlines. We're really looking forward to that conference, and that'll give us a lot of information on kind of, I guess more information on the minimum revenue guarantees that they're interested in. We did hear that one of the airlines that we're really interested in has no issues with our minimum revenue guarantee. It's about where they would like it to be, so we're good on that.
So Aaron,
Mhm.
will you be going, and any other staff, city staff going, or your city staff and then it'll be the consultant and
Yeah.
anyone else?
So myself from the city, and then Brent DeHart
Mhm.
from Salem Aviation Fueling, the ground handler, and then Jack Penning, our consultant, will be
Okay.
there as well.
All right, well, good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Really, thanks for the plugging of the runway safety action team, Rob. After all was said and done, when we got all the invites sent out, we actually hit about 1,000 people. So initially we thought about 300. We'd send it to all of our badge holders. It was about 1,000. So hopefully we'll see a good turnout there. Really quickly on the airport master plan. We have a meeting with Mead and Hunt this Friday, just internally to discuss the chapters that they're finishing up. So they have the alternatives chapter, the forecast, I believe, and then the airport layout plan. So really kind of getting those tightened up, and then those will be brought to the action. It was the pack.
Yeah, planning advisory committee.
Once that happens, then public comment. So we're starting into the home stretch of the airport master plan. So we should see things moving pretty quickly after we get met with them on Friday. So that's really
Do you want to talk about the 1.35?
yeah, will you give us a kind of a rundown on the state money that came in?
Yeah, there was a bill that went through the legislature in the short session. It's got the nickname of the Christmas tree bill because it's basically where they allocate funding from different bonding sources and things like that. The Salem Willamette Valley Airport was awarded $1,350,000 in lottery bond proceeds. Future lottery bond proceeds.
Oh, future.
No, they haven't sold the bonds yet. In fact, they don't sell the bonds until 2027. But we are allocated $1.35 million for two purposes. One is to improve the airport's resiliency through purchase and installation of an emergency generator. Well, many people may not know this, but we don't have an emergency generator for the terminal and the airport lighting and everything. So that's part of the resiliency part of that award. And then the other is go towards terminal improvements for commercial air service. So when you combine the $850,000 in federal funding that we got through Congresswoman Salinas, with as much as $1 million in AIG federal funding, with the the remainder of that lottery funds, that'll give us about $850,000 for the terminal master plan, and then $1.25 million for construction of phase 1 or phase 1-2. So the good news is we are moving forward in the next phases of improving the terminal here. And again, that's another feather in our cap when we go to April to the Commercial Air Service Conference. Say, not only do we have an incentive, pot of money, but we also have capital construction funding that can be used to improve the airport as well. The goal, of course, is to have either a second gate or a larger single gate, and to disentangle the three lines that meet here in the lobby, the security line, the baggage claim line, and the car rental line. So am I missing anything?
No, yeah, that covered it. Yeah.
So that's good news, and it's state money, and there's less strings involved with state money. So good news.
Yep. Yep. Any questions? All right. Oh yeah. Mike, back to you.
I guess just to circle back on the noise complaint. So that was, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, may I ask, was that actually a noise complaint? Because the email that was sent it had a question in it. It didn't say anything
Yeah,
negative.
that's what I saw. That's what I saw. It was a question around the altitude. And so I really have two questions, and it may be for you actually, Colonel, which is, was that one of ours?
Yes.
Or was, okay. And
Yeah,
is
and-
that altitude is okay?
Yeah. So there's two parts to answer that. Has everybody seen this little picture here? With where you can see this. So the reason I questioned whether that was just a question or an actual complaint is because the person who sent this asked a question, isn't it 1,000 feet? And obviously has some sort of knowledge, because that is a fixed wing aircraft altitude per FAA regulations, and knows how to access Flight Aware to pull up this information. So it's someone with a limited knowledge of aviation to a certain extent. That's the conclusion I came to. So, but the first thing is that so the first part of this is that helicopters do not have an altitude restriction like fixed wing aircraft. Okay. Generally speaking, but I'll get to that in the part 2 stuff. So civilian, commercial, and military aircraft do not have to follow that 1,000 feet over populated areas. However, the National Guard, right, not active duty Army, National Guard, we have our own limits, and we do follow that in our regulations. So active duty does not follow it, but we do. 1,000 foot over populated areas. However, it says overpopulated areas except for the purposes of takeoff and landing. Mm-hmm. So, and by FAA, speaking with the FAA, we have a FSDO that actually flies for us, and I've had this conversation multiple times, is if you call in a complaint inside the Class Delta airspace from surface to 2400, they're basically going to say that is all air traffic within the airspace is considered takeoff and landing in their opinion. Mm-hmm. And if you, I went and Google mapped this and Google Earthed it. This house where this was called in is just north of Gear Park. So everybody know where Gear Park is. Mm-hmm. It's about a mile from here. So they're just over a mile away. So what I think this aircraft was doing is they're setting up for basically a straight in 1-6, and they're on the descent, and they're not straight on it. So this person is probably just unaccustomed to having aircraft flying over it, but they live a mile from the airport. We get these complaints all the time. And I have to tell them, hey, did you know there was an airport? You know, I politely say it after the conversation doesn't go really well. I'm like, did you know that there's an airport right there when you bought your house? Well, I didn't think it would be like this. Well, you know, I mean, so
the person is just north of Gear Park? Yes,
north of Gear Park on the west side of Hawthorne. So just as you're past Gear Park, it's a street right tucked in there.
So they're in my ward.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's all I was checking on.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate you diving into that, and appreciate that we were able to kind of address that since it did come in as a public comment.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, I think we might lose you soon. So next agenda item, I don't have anything for the report. So I'd like to go ahead and move, I guess, to the next item would be the discussion of the board makeup and whether or not we have a recommendation for changing that or keeping it as is. So I'll open the floor to the commissioners for any conversation there.
I'm indifferent. I mean,
okay.
It does seem like we always have several people that are missing. So, you know, maybe adding another position or two on this wouldn't be a bad thing.
What's your number? Is it 7 or 9? 7? And you have one, I think I'm trying to remember the requirements. You have a certain number that are pilots, we have the colonel. What are the, do you have the list there of what the other requirements are, Aaron?
1 resident of Ward 2.
Yes, yeah, 1 resident of Ward 2, because this is in Ward 2. So what's happening is that the Boards and Commissions Committee is reviewing the requirements for each, and the ask is do you have any concerns with the requirements? Do you want to change the mix, like how many pilots, or is there anything that you want to have that you would recommend changing to improve it? Term length is 3 years, I believe, and that with one, you can do two terms, so it'd be 6 years. And so if you have any recommendations on if that all still suits you, then you would just say, we're okay. We might like to have another member, but you would need to say, should that be member at large, not any requirements, like not be a pilot or something to that effect. So those are the things that the committee's looking for, if that helps you understand what the reason is for the ask, so that we can make these policy adjustments, and if there's anything in the code that has to be changed to make them. And then they'll come forward to council and be reviewed and then agreed upon. So what we're trying to find out is if you feel that there are recommendations. And so you offered the idea of potentially adding a member, and if that's the case, you need to decide, would that individual need to fit one of the categories you already have, or if it could be something that would be at large. What we oftentimes try to do in other committees is to have a representation from the other boards. This, for the airport, that's probably not a requirement that's necessary, because you may have that by the pilots or some other mechanism, and probably not as relevant it is for, say, the planning commission or the budget committee. So I think it's just, if you have any ideas of what you might like to do, then bring them forward, and that committee would review that, and our legal would review it as well.
I think since you do take votes, we probably want to keep the number of members to an odd number.
So yes, so add to or not add any.
Yeah. Well, that very good explanation. I would retract, I should say, my recommendation, and let's just keep it the way it is. It's probably a good number. I mean, unless somebody, I can't think.
Probably is because you're in a quorum with 5 then, right?
We're four.
Or
You're a quorum with 4.
Half plus one.
Oh, yes, okay. So you almost always have at least 4 at a meeting that you would be voting. So I think you're probably okay. So
I think the one thing that we talked about was we don't, I believe, currently have a requirement for basically an on stakeholder like a company or other entity, but we've always managed to fill that position with one of the others. We often have a Garmin representative. So I don't know that we have to codify that. The entire time I've been here, it's always been fillable with a local stakeholder from the airport community who also happen to either be a pilot or at large or whatever it may be. I feel like, maybe I could think about adding one, but agree with it needs to be an odd number. I think adding 2 is probably too much. So I'm also leaning towards status quo.
I'd like to make a motion that we leave the size as is at 7.
I'll
As
second
Chris,
that.
by the way, Jody.
I'll
I
second that,
second.
Mike.
I think you just also have to make sure everybody's in agreement that there's not any necessary changes, that everything is okay.
That's what I was going to add. The size and the makeup or the structure, so just the requirements.
Yeah, I just had one comment on that. Is it normal for all of them, being a new on this board here, I'm not quite sure about the term limit piece on there, but you have 2 terms. Is that a lifetime limit?
No, usually not. You would phase out, and then let's say maybe 3 years later, somebody had to leave, you could reapply.
Okay.
So there's not like, there's many committees where somebody served for 3 or 6 years and then came back 5 years later and served another 2 terms.
So that kind of resets after a term.
Yes, it would reset. And I think the minimum is at least 1 year. But I think oftentimes it's a bit longer, and then somebody says, oh, I can do that again, so I'll do it. it's nice to have that familiarity. So yes, it's a 3-year term, and you would also, you have to let the liaison, the lead, the staff know that you wanted to redo it. And what may happen is you might have to fill out the application again for, sometimes in the past, we've just said, sure, no problem, just let us know. There may be some changes where you would fill out the application again to be reappointed. So that information we'll be deciding on, and we'll let everyone know.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to, that was my only comment in the discussion on it. If we ever have an issue filling that, if there was past people that had served on there, they have some knowledge of that because they've already served on there. And if they wanted to come back in, that could be how we could refill, and that could open it up and open the pool up a little bit more if we were ever on that. So yeah, if that's an option, then I think we're good.
Mike, a question for you. Would you like the size and the requirements to be in the same motion, or would you like to be two separate agenda items? Two separate motions?
I think unless there's any legal issues, I would prefer to just bundle it together. And then if the debate leads us elsewhere, we can always backtrack out and start over. But I kind of feel like we're probably on the same page here, but I think you moved it as together, right?
Together, and it might even be easier to just recommend no changes, right? That might be more. And
that's so yeah, I would like to amend my motion to just state no changes to the current requirements and makeup.
Second motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Discussion.
No, we had a second too. Okay.
Yeah, there was a second.
Yeah, I just was, he didn't.
Do we need to vote on the amendment first?
Well, you really just kind of restated your motion.
Yeah. So you vote on the amendment, and that waives the first one. You know, so
We'll just vote on the amended.
yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay. Let's do a roll call vote then, please.
Chair Morrow, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we didn't hear your voice, your vote.
Aye.
Aye, great. Vice Chair Burkholder,
Aye.
Member Hutchins,
Aye.
Member Edgecombe,
Aye.
Member Field.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Now that's for the amendment, am I right? Or is that where we?
I think
Amended motion is no
Correct.
different than the.
right, the amended motion is all you need to do.
We just
Okay.
clarified the original, I think is what that was.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Colonel.
Thanks for staying for the vote.
Yeah, see ya.
Appreciate you. Okay, so that's it for that agenda item. Do we have any other commission discussion? Okay, well, I appreciate everyone's engagement and patience with my technology challenges here. I'm going to go ahead and close the meeting.
Thanks, Mike.